we're going to be talking about the compensation method. The compensation method is normally used in grade 2. Some key terms we want to think of is compensation, which is when you add or subtract something, but you keep the value the same. Another one is tape diagram, so it's a diagram we use to make addition easier. Addition, which is the act of adding on a number. Subtraction is the act of taking away. The compensation method is used to make subtraction with larger number a lot easier, because right now in grade 2 we start subtracting with just ones, so this will make those problems a lot easier. Some steps we want to follow, there's about 6. The first one we're going to want to follow is to put our larger number in a rectangle. Our second step is to put the smaller number in a smaller rectangle underneath the first number or drawing we drew. Our third step is we want to add a number to get the smaller number to its closest 10. So we want to make it get to its closest 10 so the subtraction will be easier. Our fourth step, which is the most important, is that number you're going to add to get it to its closest 10, you have to do to both. This is where compensation comes to play. You have to add it to both, otherwise your value won't stay the same. So if we have 200 minus 195, if I add the 5 just to the 195, well then I have 200 minus 200, which is a completely different problem. Our fifth step is we're going to subtract a new problem. So we've added these numbers and now we're going to subtract them. Once we do that, to make sure your work's correct, or if you have any doubts or think you did something wrong, you can check your work. So in that, you're going to take the answer you got and the number you're subtracting from in your original problem, and you're going to add those two. If that number equals to the first number in your original problem, then you've done the equation correctly. So now we're going to do some practice problems. The first one we have is 200 minus 193. And remember, our first step is we want to put that larger number in a bigger box. Then we want to take our smaller number and put it in a smaller box underneath. And we have to remember the space in between is what we're trying to solve. Next, we're going to add a number to get our smaller number to its closest 10. In this case, it is going to be 7. And we have to remember we have to add it to both. It's very important, otherwise the question is not the same. Now, we're going to follow our next step, and we're going to subtract our new problem, 207 minus 200. And you can do subtraction whether it's horizontally or vertically, whichever the teacher asks or whichever you prefer. And when you do that, you're going to get your answer of 7. Now we're going to do our check, and we're going to take our 7 and add it to our 193. When we do that, we're going to get 200. And you'll see that that number is the same as our first number, so that question checks out. And so we're going to do our first step, take that larger number, put it in a big rectangle. Then we're going to do our second step, take that smaller number, put it right underneath in a smaller rectangle. And take our smaller number, find its closest 10. In this case, it's 1. And we have to remember, do it to both, otherwise it's not the same. You're not going to get the correct answer if you don't do it to both. So now we're going to take our new equation, write that down. And we're going to solve it. When you do the subtraction, you should get 120. Now we're going to check it. And we're going to take our 120 and add it to 149. And you're going to get 269. You see that it matches our first number, so that problem checks out. Then you go and you write your answer in the new equation and in the original equation. Now we're going to try a challenge one. After doing all that practice, I think we're ready for it. So we're going to do our first step, 864. The second step, smaller box. And we're going to add that number to get to closest 10. Now it's 5. Add it on to the second number. Okay. Now we're going to write our new equation down, and we're going to subtract it. When we do that, we get 539, and now we're going to check it out. 539 plus the number in our original problem, and when we do that, we get 869, which is our number in our original. So that one checks out. So we did that one all correct. And that's the compensation method. I hope